Good evening, and welcome to another episode of MXDTV with me, your host, Mark Delgado, or MXD, if you want to call me that. Those are my initials, Mark X Delgado, which is how you can find me online, markxdelgado.com. This is episode 2 of my brand new weekly live stream. I'm getting a message from my executive producer with a thumbs up. That means we're rolling. Thank you, Melanie. Well, let's not waste any time, shall we? Well, the first time I saw Joni, she was standing there outside of the London motel. She's standing there with her arms all akimbo, leering at the men driving by on their way to work. And her eyes, they were wine red. They were redder than mine. And Joni, she had a room there at the London motel. It was the corner room, the one that looked out over the freeway. And she took me up there to her room, and I stayed for 40 minutes. Then she sent me on my way. Well, I saw Joni many times after that. I saw her there at the London, and the Astro, and the Stardust, and the Sands. And Joni, she wasn't like the other girls, you know. She never tried to steal my money or my dope. She used to refer to me to the others as her sometimes boyfriend. I guess I kind of like that. The room was rich with magazines. The chain had been released. And in the darkness you could see her fingers sick with rings. There were no more wedding bells. The planes had split the trees. There you sat on the edge of the bed with the queen of the London scene. And it was a time of infamy, a time of fallen kings. And in the courtroom, you've been laid bare. The truth had been decreed. Thought you might get away. Oh, you thought that you might break free. It's when you found out that you'd been ensnared by the queen of the London scene. While you dreamed, a shadow did appear, and there was something cold and dark poured in your ear. You tried to listen and you tried to hear, but there were only screams and a mouthful of bad advice from the queen of the London scene. That's a little song called The Queens of Coming and Going. It's a song that has a lot of meanings, but it's has some recurring characters in it, or one main recurring character, which is Joni. She's a bit of a representational character. Andrew George wants to hear Guided by Voices. Maybe. John Cooker, what up? Thanks for tuning in. Well, Queens are Coming and Going. That's the third track off the new record, Wildwood Road. It's a song I've been playing for a long time and been working on for a long time, and has a lot of meanings in a lot of places where I've been and spent a lot of time, and there was a time and a place. Well, I felt the wheel and its grace. King Harvest sang in the fields. So we drank to what we made, and the season changed. Soon I felt the long and the slow decay. Why must I be the thief? Why must you see my grief? I can't explain what comes over me. Then I was crushed by the weight. Hung it all up and I waved goodbye to the crowd and the hands from the stage. Whispering sound I received through the pines and the trees. In a motel dream I swam from the beach to the sea. Why must I be the thief? Why must you see my grief? Tears of rage roll down my cheeks. I can't explain what comes over me. Home, so far away. Home, so far away. Home, so far away. Why must I be the thief? Why must you see my grief? Tears of rage roll down my cheeks. I can't explain. I can't explain. I can't explain. I can't explain. Comes over me. That's the fourth track off of the new record, Wildwood Road. That's a song called The Cautionary Tale of Richard Manuel. I thought I'd start with a couple songs from the record. Last episode I played the first two songs, so I thought I'd play those. Both of those are songs I've been playing for a long time, and I wrote, those were probably the first couple songs I wrote for the record, and I kind of played them today because I got a little bit of a theme going, and I just want to check this message here. Oh, okay. Melanie told me the picture was grainy, but now that it's better. Now it's better. Thanks. Okay, well, this is an experimental thing. This is my second episode, so, we're trying our best, and any tips and hints are welcome. I'm just going to file through a couple. It looks like this is a message from from one of my friends, a guy named, has many names. I'll tell you a few of them. Sugar Free is one. Another name is Soup McGee, but those that love him very much know him as Jason Albright, and that's a old saying of ours, how do you do it? Here we have John Light's here once again, the lovely John Light. Hey, John. And Andrew George left me off the hook with the GBV. He said, just kidding. Okay. Thanks, man. So, MXDTV, it's a bit of a different show, maybe, where I will play you some songs and talk about them a little bit. Those last two songs are story songs to a certain degree, and the main theme in those songs is there's one nose touch. I'll try not to do that too much, but the main theme of those songs is probably addiction, which, as you know, I sing about a lot. I wanted to read some stories tonight in between the songs, and I want to start with this particular excerpt from this book of short stories, and this might be a possible show killer. I have to put the glasses on, but this is a really important book to me, and if it wasn't for this book, I don't know that I'd have any of the ideas that I'm currently working with. They're pretty much lifted directly from my experience having read this book. When I read this book, I had never read anything quite like it, and I've spent a lot of time just trying to duplicate what I learned from this book. And there's a lot of stuff I learned from this book. It's a book of short stories by a guy named Tim O'Brien, and the book is called The Things They Carried. And it's a book of interconnected short stories about this platoon that this guy was in Vietnam, and all the characters occur in all the stories over and over. I try to do that. I've tried to do this with my songs and my stories and my poems. Everything's connected, and there's recurring characters. And anyway, without going on for too long, I will reference this book a lot during MXDTV, I think. So we're just getting started, and I'll try not to go on too long. But this is from the opening story in this book, and this story is called The Things They Carried. And I'm going to read you just this one little piece here, and then this is from The Things They Carried, the story, The Things They Carried. Goes like this. The things they carried were largely determined by necessity. Among the necessities or near necessities were P38 can openers, pocket knives, heat tabs, wristwatches, dog tags, mosquito repellent, chewing gum, candy, cigarettes, salt tablets, packets of Kool-Aid, lighters, matches, sewing kits, military payment certificates, sea rations, and 2 or 3 canteens of water. Together, these items weighed between 12 and 18 pounds, depending upon a man's habits or rate of metabolism. Henry Dobbins, who was a big man, carried extra rations. He was especially fond of canned peaches in heavy syrup over pound cake. Dave Jensen, who practiced field hygiene, carried a toothbrush, dental floss, and several hotel-sized bars of soap he'd stolen on R&R in Sydney, Australia. Ted Lavender, who was scared, carried tranquilizers until he was shot in the head outside the village of Ton Cay in mid-April. By necessity, and because it was SOP, they all carried steel helmets that weighed 5 pounds, including the liner and camouflage cover. They carried the standard fatigue jackets and trousers. Very few carried underwear. On their feet they carried jungle boots, 2.1 pounds, and Dave Jensen carried 3 pairs of socks and a can of Dr. Scholl's foot powder as a precaution against trench foot. Until he was shot, Ted Lavender carried 6 or 7 ounces of premium dope, which for him was a necessity. Mitchell Sanders, the RTO, carried condoms. Norman Bowker carried a diary. Rat Kiley carried comic books. Kiowa, a devout Baptist, carried an illustrated New Testament that had been presented to him by his father, who taught Sunday school in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. As a hedge against bad times, however, Kiowa also carried his grandmother's distrust of the white man, his grandfather's old hunting hatchet. Necessity dictated. Because the land was mined and booby-trapped, it was SOP for each man to carry a steel-centered, nylon-covered flak jacket, which weighed 6.7 pounds, but which on hot days seemed much heavier. Because you could die so quickly, each man carried at least one large compress bandage, usually in the helmet band for easy access. Because the nights were cold and because the monsoons were wet, each carried a green plastic poncho that could be used as a raincoat or ground sheet or makeshift tent. With its quilted liner, the poncho weighed almost 2 pounds, but it was worth every ounce. In April, for instance, when Ted Lavender was shot, they used his poncho to wrap him up, then to carry him across the paddy, then to lift him into the chopper that took him away. all those characters recur throughout the book, over and over again, and different things happen. And I think one of the blurbs on the book, maybe it was a different book of Tim O'Brien's, but it said something like this, to say that, Tim O'Brien's books are about Vietnam is like saying Moby Dick is a book about a whale. And, Tim O'Brien takes fact and fiction and blurs them and uses recurring characters, and he just does this thing where you're not quite sure what's real and what's not, and it doesn't really matter anymore. And one of the things that Tim O'Brien says is that a real story is not always necessarily the factual story, which I find really interesting. A lot of the stories you're going to hear tonight take place in either Fresno, where I grew up, or in Sacramento, where Soup McGee, Jason Albright, and I spent a lot of time together. And that's the second or third nose touch, I know, but I think when I get nervous, my nose gets itchy. A lot of these, when I say these stories, I mean these songs, and I will read a little bit of a story I wrote that takes place in Sacramento, California. This particular song is from my first record, and this is also a Sacramento song, and I used to have a recurring dream where I was walking along the Business 80 freeway in my underwear, and I couldn't tell if it was dusk or dawn, and I could hear car horns honking at me, and I'd have this dream over and over and over again. And I found myself in Sacramento doing the same thing every day, over and over again. Remember that, Jason? Remember that? Good thing we had each other, huh? We might not have made it. Okay, this is a little song called Stuck on the Radio. To say this song is about the radio is saying it's about a whale. Broadcast placemat smile, a worn out station dial, feedback, static eyes, all night transmission dies. And this is what the ratings cost you, though you find that you might be lost on the dial. Stuck on the radio, I'm sure that you've heard this song before. Then you'll find stuck on the radio, I'm sure that you've heard this song before. Up with the sunrise, no surprise, you're down in the driveway, head from your feet and then they come and go. Shortwave beeline to the nearest eye, you're out on the parkway, horn blasts they bleed from your stereo. This is what the ratings cost you, though you find that you might be lost on the dial. stuck on the radio. I'm sure that you've heard this song before. Then you'll find stuck on the radio. I'm sure that you've heard this song before. And every day you sing the same thing. And every day you sing the same thing. I got a phone call. And every day you sing the same thing. And every day you sing the same thing. The same thing. Same. So I received a phone call during that song, and my video cut out. I don't know if it cut out for you guys, but thanks, Andrew. Andrew said nice. He's just being nice, I think. Thanks, buddy. Well, I never needed, Soup says I never needed underwear, but yeah, right. Me neither. Yeah, so such is live broadcast. I didn't know that would happen, so we'll have to figure out how to deal with that. So if you're watching, don't call me right now. We'll have to this next song is also from my last record, and this is possibly written to Joni is maybe the subject of this song too. I'm not quite sure, but maybe. This is a little song called "The Boats in San Pedro Harbor." What is this you're saying, Andrew? What's up with the guitar behind you? Details, please. That's a good question. That is a Framus guitar. And I believe Russ Little gave me that guitar. The great Russ Little, who also gave me this guitar. He gave it to me. He gave me both of these guitars. I'm going to touch my nose. It's itching. But I believe Russ Little gave me that guitar too, and that's a Framus. I don't know the year of it. This is a 1969 Hummingbird, which was given to me by Russ Little. And then he also gave me that Framus. That Framus was the only guitar I had left at one point, maybe one of the lowest. Thanks, Andrew. Both are beautiful, he says. Thank you, sir. That was the only guitar I had left at one point. I had hawked all of my instruments, and I had given everything away. I was in the throes of addiction, and I was at maybe one of the lowest points of my life, and I was living in San Diego, California. And all I had left was that guitar. If it wasn't for Russ Little, he got my Martin out of Hawk. So it could be said that all of my acoustic guitars are because of Russ Little. But that Framus is really cool. Maybe I'll play it one of these nights when I've tested it through the setup here. It's really cool. I'm going to play the song The Boats in San Pedro Harbor. It was written about all the people I had left behind in Fresno, California. She's miles away, and the burning fever's gone from the heat waves and the freight trains and time and space. Well, it turns and it teeters on, takes a slightly different turn away. Hey, what's that speed? It's traveling on. What's that sound that keeps her hanging all along by the freeways? What's that speed? She's traveling on. And what's that sound that keeps her hanging all along by the freeways and the freight trains? Stayed too long. She stayed too long. She stayed too long. When we were recording that song, I was recording that at Wolf Sound in Fresno, California, and I had the words written, but it was all in first person, and I had a loose sketch of the words. They weren't quite, it wasn't fully formed. I had this sketch, and we had recorded the guitar part. And then I was just doing the vocal, and I was kind of making it up as I went, trying to figure it out. And we did a couple takes, and Peter Wolf, my really good friend, and the drummer on the record, and who co-produced that record with Victor Sotelo. It was just he and I in the studio, and he came into the vocal booth, and he looked at me, and he says, and then I'm going to do my Peter Wolf impression now, but he said, "Why don't you take all the times you say I out of there and say she or her?" And he that was a terrible impression, but he gave me this great idea to kind of make it about somebody else, to make it written to somebody instead of about me, which is an ongoing thing I'm trying to learn, as everything's written about me, but I'm trying to incorporate characters and make it about something bigger. So that was kind of the first time that happened for me, and I learned something really interesting. And I always thought that was probably the best song on that record. There's no way to listen to that online, so I think I need to get it up somehow, so people can hear it. We got a new comment here. Oh, there he is. The man of the hour. This is Russ Little. I've been talking about you. I hope it's okay. But Russ Little saved my life about 23 different times, and I love him very much. I love you, man. Thanks for tuning in. It makes it really nice to know you're out there. I'm gonna grind the show to another halt with some more reading. I'm gonna read you now probably the most important author to me these days. I've read all of his books more than once. I've read this particular book maybe the most. Dennis Johnson also wrote a book of short stories that are interconnected, and it's his most. Oh, thank you, Russ, says Andrew. Yeah, man. Thank you, Russ. Story time, yay. Okay. Dennis Johnson has a book of also interconnected short stories, very similar to Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. His most famous book is a book called Jesus' Son, and they made a movie out of that. And a lot of the stuff I've been writing is a bit of a rip off of that. And but the most important book to me is this one, and this one is called Angels, and this has a couple characters in it that he writes about quite a bit. There's a guy named Bill Houston in here, and he comes up in Tree of Smoke, and he comes up in some plays too. The whole family. Bill Houston has a brother. Anyway, he writes about these guys a lot. I'm going to read you the final bit of this. I'm going to read you the last page of this book. It won't ruin the story for you, really, because I won't tell you everything. In fact, Bill Houston is not even in. I just tried to itch my ear, but I can't. All right. This is a book called Angels. It's such a great book, and I don't know, Dennis Johnson, for my money, writes the most amazing stories, and he just has a way, whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to just read this. This is the end of the book Angels. I think this is Dennis Johnson's first book. Here on the back it says a small masterpiece, and that's a blurb from Philip Roth. So there you go. Anyway, this is the end of Angels. Frederick stayed a long time in Casablanca Cafe. For a while he napped in the booth, his head thrown back, his mouth open, and he woke feeling furry inside and disoriented. As he was paying for his coffee, at the instant he was putting one of the free toothpicks into his mouth, he sensed the presence of someone nearby, staring at him. The mood was palpable and real, but he knew there was hardly anyone in the place, just a man reading a magazine, which he held flat on the table beside his bowl of soup. Fredericks looked around a minute before he saw the portrait of Elvis Presley on the wall behind the cash register, almost directly in front of him. Rendered in iridescent paint on black velvet, hovering before a brilliant microphone, the face of the dead idol seemed on the brink of speech. Frederick stepped out into the terrible noon and stood by the road with his hands in his pockets, his face shaded by the brim of a straw hat, and chewed his toothpick, aware that he looked very much like a country lawyer. He was still young, and it was completely possible that soon he'd begin carrying out his original intention of getting himself elected to something or other. But the truth was, he knew that he'd been irretrievably sidetracked right at the start by his stint as a public defender, and that he'd probably continue the rest of his life as a criminal lawyer because, in all honesty, there was a part of him that wanted to help murderers go free. Most of his clients ended up in Florence. He'd spent a lot of time here, and he would be here a great deal more, in this town of bored dirt, consisting mainly of a prison shimmering at this moment in waves of heat, a town that was always quiet, except for the sounds of wind coming across the desert and ropes banging against flagpoles, where every evening the iridescent on-velvet face of Elvis Presley climbed the twilight to address all the bankrupt cafes. It was Frederick's understanding that the prisoners had a story, that each night for months, at 9 precisely, a light had burned in a window in the town, where the men on one cell block's upper tier could see it and wonder and imagine, each one, that it shone for him alone. But that was just a story, something that people will tell themselves, something to pass the time it takes for the violence inside a man to wear him away, or to be consumed itself, depending on who is the candle and who is the light. I don't know if there's a better ending for a book than that. You're flying blind while I'm reading that to you, unless you've read that story. But that character is a defense attorney, and he's defending somebody who was sent to death row, and who was going to be executed. And the feeling I get from that is like, we carry these stories with us. We carry all the things we accumulate with us, and it kind of it shapes who we are, and we get sidetracked, and we change course. I love that he talks about Elvis in there. He talks about Elvis a lot, and I think it's interesting that I can't really articulate exactly what it is that turns me on so much about it. But a better story I've not read than that particular book, and a better ending I've never read. Ever since Mary was born, my daughter, I've been playing this song, and it's connected to Elvis. Somehow, we're all connected to Elvis, I think. I think Elvis is the symbol for the disintegration of the American dream, or the corruption of it, or the distortion of it, maybe. The Mississippi Delta was shining like a national guitar, and I am following the river down the highway to the cradle of the Civil War. Going to Graceland with poor boys and pilgrims and families. We are going to Graceland. And my traveling companion is 9 years old. She's the child of my first marriage. I have reason to believe that we all will be received in Graceland. She comes back to tell me she's gone. 'Cause if I didn't know that, as if I didn't know my own bed, as if I didn't notice the way she brushed her hair from her forehead. They say losing love is like a window in your heart. Everybody sees you blown apart. Everybody sees the wind blow in Graceland. With poor boys and pilgrims and families, we are going to Graceland. My traveling companion is a ghost from Spain. It's a ghost from Spain. And I have reason to believe that we all will be received in Graceland. There's a girl in New York City. She calls herself the human trampoline. When I'm falling and flying, tumbling in turmoil, I say, oh, so this is what she means. She means we're bouncing into Graceland. They say losing love is like a window in your heart. Everybody sees you blown apart. Everybody sees the wind blow in Graceland. Poor boys and pilgrims and families, we are going to Graceland. I may be obliged to defend every love and every ending. Maybe there's no obligation now. For reasons I cannot explain, there's some part of me that wants to see Graceland. And they say losing love is like a window in your heart. Everybody sees you blown apart. Everybody sees the wind blow in Graceland. The interesting thing about that song is that I'd been playing it kind of like that for a while, and then I stumbled upon Justin Townes Earle, who rapidly became one of my favorite singer-songwriters, and we in our house we listened to his music quite a bit, and turns out he's got a great version, not unlike that one, much better. But quite similar, and I found that really surprising, and it's just interesting how we're connected, and how those kinds of things work. And Justin Townes suffered the same thing that Richard Manuel suffered, and that I myself suffered, and many people, and that's just addiction. And he couldn't overcome it. He couldn't change, and the story he'd made wouldn't. He was unable to break the cycle of addiction, and it killed him. This town's dead tonight. I got nowhere to be. The moon is hung just right. It shines like diamonds in the street. Moulin wine and lonesome. It's cutting clean through my heart. In my window smoking. Midnight setting in on Rogers Park. Guess I came here with hopes. Guess I came here with dreams. Now I'm all alone. I can't even get to sleep. So take my heart and break it in. Take me back to the pines. I'm tired of lying awake, and I feel like I'm running out of time. See my dreams before my eyes. Shadows on the wall, and I got nowhere left to fall. It's snowing in off the lake, punching holes in the dark through the lonely streets of Rogers Park. Shadow boys are banging, and I hear 'em down in the street. The corner girls are waiting for someone to take them off for keeps. Ain't no hope of leaving now. Ain't no prayer for the poor. And all that's lost from stealing, she can't hold me anymore. I see my dreams before my eyes. Shadows on the wall, and I got nowhere left to fall. Snowing in off the lake, punching holes in the dark through the lonely streets of Rogers Park. Through the lonely streets of Rogers Park. Through the lonely streets of Rogers Park. That's a Justin Townes Earl song called Rogers Park, by, off of the record of the same name. If you never heard that record, I think you should. What do I know? That's a pretty good record, though. Let's see, Melanie. I got her with that one, I think. There we go. She did a crying face. I'll never forget that night, Melanie. Melanie and I sometimes hang out in different rooms late at night, and we'll text each other from different rooms and we'll converse. But I was laying on the couch doing something, and she was in the bedrooms watching a movie or something. But I remember she came out and told me that she'd heard that Justin Townes died. And we both cried because we had literally been listening to his music we saw him at the Colony. We had been listening to his music every day for months, and I'm going to do this again. I apologize. It was such a big, we would listen to his music, we would dance to his music, and we were really into it. And then we got a chance to see him perform at the Colony here in Woodstock, and it was a great show. I mean, he was loaded, and but he was still an amazing performer, one of the best I think we'd ever seen. So it was a sad day, very sad day. Let's see, Danielle. There's my sister Danielle, my new sister Danielle. Right on. Thanks for the green heart. Love you, Danielle. Well, we're coming to the end here. And I'm going to read you one more thing before we go. We're running out of time, but I'm going to, what time? We're running out of time. It's almost an hour, but since it's my show and I can do whatever the fuck I want, and if I can do this, I'm going to, and I will. This is, I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this, Cheryl Lambert. Kurt and I are enjoying the music and the readings. That's Cheryl Lambert. Cheryl and Kurt have a show on Sundays, I believe, a live stream show. And thank you guys for tuning in. They have a show called The 9 Mile Swamp, I believe. And they do a live stream every Sunday, and they too read poetry and play music. And Kurt's one of the best guitar players I've ever heard, ever in my life. So check them out. The 9 Mile Swamp. Is that right? Is that right, you guys? I think that's it. They got a great show, and they're amazing musicians. And so make sure you check them out. I'm going to read you this excerpt from a story I wrote. I have a book coming out soon that I've promised everybody, so I guess I better finish it. It's almost done, but this is a short story I wrote, and this is a Sacramento short story, and it's called Quinn. Quinn is a woman I knew in Sacramento who was one of the best pool players I've ever. Now Kurt has to live up to that compliment. No problem, Kurt. You're an amazing player, one of the best I've ever seen. I wrote this story about this woman, Quinn. Quinn's not her name. I don't remember what her name was, but she was one of the best pool players I'd ever seen. And we ran a pool hustle at this dive bar in Sacramento called the Monte Carlo. And this is an excerpt from that story. So here we go. This is Quinn. I slammed the 50 down above the left corner pocket of the black Dynamo right in the face of the guy drawing back to take a shot. $50 for next. Here's another 20, says you missed that shot. Quinn leans like a dark totem in the corner. She is slumped over and smoking, and the smoke is everywhere all around her. She has on the wobbly table in front of her empties. Shot glasses and pint glasses. She is holding a pint in the hand that isn't stovepiping the Pall Mall, and it's half full, and she lifts it to her tortured lips and downs it and slams it back to the table, scattering ashes from the heap of butts in the ashtray. The guy with my 50 in his face, the mark, doesn't belong here. He and his friend don't belong here. They look like they thought about what to wear. Their jeans have holes, the kind of jeans you buy with a hole already in them. Jeans that are washed a lot to make them look like they have been worn a lot. Their shirts are tight, a red one and a blue one. So we can see they are fit, Nautilus or something. I'm wearing my army surplus coat, the one with the rip in the shoulder and my father's name on the right front pocket. Quinn is wearing her black turtleneck, the one with the rip in the elbow and the one that otherwise covers every inch of her torso, and our jeans are torn with holes in them because we wear them every day, and I keep catching my toe in the hole of mine. Every day I put them on and they rip a little more and the hole keeps getting wider and wider, and we are, all of us, in the Monte Carlo. So small and colliginous and final, it has the dimensions of a casket. I could throw a pint glass from one end to the other. Eventually I will, a full one, and finally be asked to leave for good, and I will. Most of us are here every morning when they open at 6 a.m., and we are, most of us, here when they close at 2 a.m. And we stay beyond that because there's after hours, too. The door to the Monte Carlo, it seems, only swings one way. We have lost the idea how to leave. But for now, it's a Friday night, and we get people that don't belong. Red and blue shirt. They are like tourists during summertime in a seaside casino, except this isn't Monaco, it's 14th Street, and it isn't summertime, it's February in downtown Sacramento. Red shirt rakes a shot off the opposite corner and whispers, "Fuck." Don't worry about that, that's a freebie. You and your buddy here want to play me, and my girl there, that's Quinn. Say hi, Quinn. Quinn raises the hand with the smoldering Pall Mall and somehow manages to unfurl her middle finger and drop the pointer and ring. Then gets up with the urgency of a glacier, zigzags over to the jukebox and leans into it with her right hand and hangs her head into the neon. That's your girlfriend? I don't know. Are you my girlfriend, Quinn? I yell across the Monte Carlo to Quinn's backside as she hovers over the Jupiter Majesty 120, dropping coins into it like a wishing well. She walks from the jukebox to the bar and then back to the table, armed with 2 more pints, and she lights a Pall Mall as Van Morrison infiltrates the Stygian chasm of the Monte Carlo, all the way from Dublin, as it were, and mingles with the voices and laughter and lighters and glasses and pool balls and cries and stories and smoke and excuses and coughs and interruptions and asides and fakes and all around bullshit. If I ventured in the slipstream between the viaducts of your dream. Get the fuck out of here, says Red Shirt, who has yet to make a shot he meant to. You can read the rest of that story on my blog if you desire. There's more cursing. There's more drinking in that story. Sacramento. A lot happened in Sacramento. I'm going to play one more song, even though we're way over an hour. Thanks for sticking around. This is another story with a recurring character, and this one takes place in Sacramento and Fresno. And this is a song called Off of Wildwood Road, and this is a song called Mr. Sorrow Strikes Again. And I knew you'd come, dressed in a sweater. I know you'll stay through the winter. When we are done, I'll feel much better. I'd rather be dead than sit here and wonder things that you sell. The heat waves of August, the freeways and the London motel. Can you be kind? I'll never be rid of the feelings you always remind me of. Your smile and your charm, waltzing through Fresno in summer. I'll be alright again once you've left my side. Downtown is cold, chill can be bitter, and it's hard on the bums and the girls on the corner. But when I see those lives on fire, I know that it's you behind the pyre. Yes, you, the stories you tell. Bookstore killer, the freeways and the London motel. Though trouble be kind, I'll never be rid of the feelings you always remind me of. Your smile and your charm across the bridge West Sacramento. I'll be alright again once you're by my side. Thanks for sticking around over time. Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of MXDTV. Danielle says, what a cliffhanger. Cheryl Lambert, Kurt Henry, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out their show. Thank you guys for being here tonight with me and for all your nice comments and for paying attention. We'll try it again next week. We'll see what happens. And thank you. Love you. Bye.